Ukraine, a crossroads nation, projects its future between ruins and hopes. For Russia, its control represents strategic security. For the West, the defense of values and borders. In Alaska, the meeting between Trump and Putin reflected the global dispute over the architecture of power. Meanwhile, European leaders together with Zelensky in Washington reaffirmed the transatlantic commitment, underscoring Ukraine's importance for both the United States and Europe. Devastated cities like Mariupol and symbols of resistance like Odessa anticipate an urban rebirth capable of inspiring other nations. Let us explore together why Ukraine is no longer merely a battlefield. It is the axis of the 21st century. Ukraine. Cities. Forging the future. Ukraine's future is not measured solely in terms of the military victory or defeat, but in its ability to transform cities into pillars of reconstruction. Every site destroyed or defended during the war becomes a foundation for redrawing an economic, territorial, and symbolic map. In the south, Kherson stands out as a decisive axis. Its hydroelectric dam and control of the Dnieper shape water supplies to Crimea and regional energy stability. Its recovery will determine whether the country consolidates a growth engine in the south. Further east, Kharkiv projects a central role. Located near Russia, it combines military risk with vast technological potential. Its universities and innovation hubs place Ukraine on the path to lead strategic sectors, from engineering to digitalization. Mariupol, devastated during the battles, will be another turning point. If it rises again as a modern port, it could reclaim its export function and reopen crucial trade routes, becoming a symbol of national resilience. Bakhmut, small in material value, is already immense in symbolic weight. After its prolonged siege, it remains an emblem of resistance in the collective memory. Alongside it, Pokrovsk emerges as a productive frontier, where mining, industry, and rail networks may drive post-war recovery. Ultimately, Ukraine's future will depend on transforming wounds into strengths. Turning ruins into productive hubs and resistance into innovation will be the key for Ukraine to secure a renewed place in the global order of the 21st century. Russia, between two centuries. Power, identity, and the struggle for Ukraine. Russia's trajectory over the past century has been shaped by radical transformations and enduring ambitions of power. The Bolshevik Revolution of 1917 ended Tsarism and gave rise to a regime that sought to redesign society from its very foundations. Constructivist architecture reflected collective ideals, while repression, gulags, and purges defined decades. Two world wars and the Cold War consolidated the Soviet Union as a superpower, underpinned by milestones such as Sputnik and Gagarin's spaceflight. The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 ushered in a period of crisis. Out of this vacuum emerged Vladimir Putin, who combined internal stability with a narrative of national restoration. Moscow and St. Petersburg were modernized, yet imperial ambitions also resurfaced, shaping the country's foreign policy. In the 21st century, the Kremlin blends symbols with pragmatic interests, reaffirming influence vis-à-vis the West, securing energy corridors and strategic industries, and maintaining access to maritime routes. Within this vision, Ukraine is a red line. Losing it would mean accepting an irreversible geopolitical setback. Ukraine, with its Black Sea ports and agricultural resources, is not merely a geopolitical frontier. It is part of the Eastern Slavic identity. For Moscow, retaining it means safeguarding security, projecting power in Eastern Europe, and limiting the influence of NATO and the European Union. Trump and Putin in Alaska. A meeting with global reach. The meeting between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin in Alaska marked an episode laden with strategic symbolism. Chosen as a midpoint between Washington and Moscow, The venue conveyed geographical neutrality while underscoring that the Arctic, with its emerging routes and energy resources, has already become a focal axis of global competition. The dialogue was dominated by the war in Ukraine, an unavoidable topic in any attempt to redefine the bilateral relationship. For Trump, the priority was to present himself as a negotiator capable of reducing tensions and projecting leadership in a conflict that has been wearing down the West. For Putin, Alaska offered an opportunity for legitimization, to portray Russia not as isolated, but as an indispensable actor in global security. Beyond the Ukrainian battlefield, the conversation touched on sanctions, energy trade, and China's growing presence in Eurasia. Trump seeks to reposition the United States as a global arbiter, while Putin aims for the West to acknowledge Russia's spheres of influence. No immediate agreements were reached, but a tone was set, that of two pragmatic leaders who, despite their differences, explore avenues of mutual understanding. Alaska, at once a crossroads of routes and a symbol of past disputes, became the stage for a power play that transcends Ukraine. Ukraine and the West, the axis of a new balance. In the contemporary geopolitical map, Ukraine has become a pivotal piece on the European chessboard. Its position between Russia and the European Union turns it into a strategic frontier, both bridge and barrier, whose control determines trade routes, access to the Black Sea, and the exploitation of vast energy and agricultural resources capable of sustaining economies well beyond Europe. For Russia, Ukraine symbolizes defensive depth and forms the core of a historical narrative that traces its origins back to Kievan Rus. For the European Union, it represents the possibility of strengthening energy security and consolidating itself against Russian expansion. For the United States and NATO, Ukraine is a critical point of containment within the transatlantic security architecture. The war has accelerated the transformation of its relationship with the West. What was once an ambiguous partnership has become a firm commitment. From the Euromaidan of 2014 to its candidacy status for European Union membership in 2022, Kyiv has deepened its Western integration. Yet geography remains immutable. Proximity to Russia guarantees inevitable tension. Overcoming this vulnerability requires diversifying energy supplies, strengthening democratic institutions, and consolidating an economic fabric with Europe. In parallel, the United States has emerged as a decisive partner, not only through military assistance, but also via financial resources for reconstruction. That support, however, raises debates over strategic concessions, such as rare earths and other critical minerals in the global competition with China. Ukraine's future will depend on two factors: its internal resilience and the consistency of Western backing. At this intersection lies more than the sovereignty of a single state. What is at stake is the trajectory of Europe in the 21st century and the real scope of the Western project in the face of both historical and emerging challenges. Ukraine. The importance of Ukraine for the United States. For Washington, Ukraine is not a distant country but a strategic node where security, resources, and geopolitics converge. Its fate directly affects the United States' ability to sustain the international order and project global leadership. On the military front, Ukraine serves as an advance line against Russia. Its resistance weakens the Kremlin and sends a clear message. Military aggression carries tangible costs. Economically, Ukraine holds reserves of titanium and rare earths vital for defense and the energy transition. In a world defined by competition with China, securing access to these resources is a priority for Washington. Politically, the relationship reflects shifting approaches, from Trump's initial ambivalence to massive support under Biden after the 2022 invasion, and later to a mediator role in Trump's second term. This evolution underscores how Ukraine has moved from peripheral partner to a centerpiece of U.S. foreign policy. Reconstruction also opens opportunities for American companies in infrastructure, energy, and technology, with Washington's backing serving as a guarantee of stability. Thus, Ukraine has become a defensive shield, an economic partner, and a test of U.S. credibility. Its future will determine not only the European balance but also the United States' place in a transforming world order. Ukraine, Europe, and Trump. Maps, power, and future scenarios. The recent White House meeting between Volodymyr Zelensky, several European leaders, and Donald Trump reflects not only a diplomatic gesture but also a contest over the security architecture of the 21st century. The presence of figures such as Macron, Starmer, Stubb, Meloni, von der Leyen, and Mark Rutte symbolized Europe's attempt to preserve strategic cohesion in the face of Russian pressure, while also shaping the American outlook. At the center of the conversation, the Oval Office map acquired geopolitical significance. For Trump, the map was not merely a visual aid, but a conceptual framework. A fragmented Ukraine, in which territorial concessions are presented as a pragmatic path toward peace. This logic contrasts with the European perspective, rooted in defending international law and avoiding precedents of forced annexations. Zelensky navigates a delicate balance. His diplomacy of gratitude seeks to secure continuity of American support, while introducing the idea of security guarantees akin to NATO's Article 5, though without formal membership. For Ukraine, the risk lies in accepting a frozen peace that erodes sovereignty in exchange for ambiguous promises of protection. Trump, in turn, projects a transactional calculus, negotiating directly with Putin without demanding a prior ceasefire, suggesting a redefinition of the U.S. role as mediator, one privileging immediate results over normative commitments. This could reshape the transatlantic relationship, creating tensions with allies who fear a settlement overly favorable to Moscow. The meeting, though cordial, underscored the absence of consensus. The future will depend on whether Washington and Europe can synchronize strategies. Either a Ukraine sustained by a robust security framework or a tacit partition scenario that reshapes both the regional and global order. Will transatlantic cohesion endure if the U.S. privileges pragmatic deals with Russia over European principles? What global implications arise from Arctic competition after the Trump-Putin meeting in Alaska? Will Ukraine become a geopolitical shield or a negotiating space that redefines the emerging world order? What role will Ukraine's strategic cities play in the economic reordering of Eastern Europe? Could Ukraine's urban renaissance become a model for other conflict-affected states in the 21st century? Ukraine's future will depend on transforming resistance into innovation, ruins into productive hubs, and cities into symbols of resilience. The story of Ukraine is far from over, and your voice matters. Share your thoughts in the comments. What's your view on this conflict? If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to join us for the next chapter.